Despite facing an injury-riddled Celtics team, the Toronto Raptors still fall in a flattering scoreline in the end, 126 to 114. So, looking at this Raptors team, where are the wins going to come from? Is this team good enough to turn it around? Let's get into it. Welcome to the Raptors Roundup on Amateur Hour Sports. This is the segment on the channel where we go over the game from the night before. We give you a brief overview of the game. We do a synopsis of proceedings that transpired during the game. And then we go to 3 takeaways that we can get from the game and move on with for the future. Now, this was a really bad game to watch if you're a Toronto Raptors fan because it was quite embarrassing to see. But we'll get into that. This is Amateur Hour Sports, the channel where we give you NBA content with a focus on the Toronto Raptors 4 days a week at least. So if it is your first time here with me today and you like what you see, you want more of myself talking about the Toronto Raptors in videos just like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. But on to the game where, yes, the Raptors scoreline really flattered them. The fact that it was within 12 was very fortunate for the Raptors that they mopped up some of those points in garbage time. In the end, still not close, but it could have been so much worse than just a 12-point loss. This was an injury-depleted Celtics team that I thought the Raptors, I didn't think they were favorites going to this game, but I thought there was a great opportunity to go out and get something from this game because the Celtics were missing Kemba Walker, who's been missing. Jeff Teague, who they signed to replace Kemba Walker during his injury, also not available. And Marcus Smart wasn't playing as well, so I thought that this would be a great game for the guards to show out. And it was a great game for one of our guards to show out, but nobody else on the team decided to help out Fred VanVleet for this game. I thought that with all these injuries, the bench for the Raptors had to take over, but that didn't happen. And even after Nick Nurse in the pre-game press conference called out Terrence Davis and Matt Thomas for not being good enough defensively, I thought that, okay, Nick Nurse is holding guys accountable. Maybe this was a good spark. Maybe we can take that and try to get something out of this game. But clearly that was not the case. So we'll get into the synopsis. We'll start with the first quarter where the Raptors come out the gates pretty hot. They're hitting threes. This is what happens when threes start falling down. The Raptors can take a bit of an advantage. Pascal Siakam hits 2 early threes, and the Raptors are up 10 early. But I'm saying to myself, we have been up by 10 in every single game this season, yet we're 1-4. So a 10-point lead in the first quarter means absolutely nothing, especially against a good team like the Boston Celtics. And proven correct as we moved onwards. Defense looked good in the first quarter. We were mixing up our offense, mixing up threes, getting to the rim. We were turning turnovers, and we forced a lot of Boston Celtics turnovers. We turned those turnovers into points on the other end. Everything was looking great, and we were up by 9 after the first. Now, the second quarter, this is where none of that happens anymore. The Boston Celtics completely take over this game. Our offense slows down big time. We stop hitting our open shots, like Pascal Siakam missing some gimmies. OG Anunoby, how many wide open corner threes can this guy miss in just a 6-game span? It's unbelievable how much he's regressed from last season from his shooting. Now, obviously, we're early goings in the season, but not been good enough from him. Boston go on a 10-0 run. Peyton Pritchard comes in and, kind of orchestrates that 10-0 run. He's hitting everything at the rim, even above bigger defenders. Like even Pascal Siakam couldn't guard him in the paint, which was just so frustrating to see. And with this big run by the Celtics, we've already lost our lead. We start off this quarter shooting 3 for 12 from the field. Celtics end up going on a 27-6 run to completely take over this game and basically end it in the second quarter. This game was done. This was put to bed in the second quarter. With that run going on, we weren't hitting our threes, but our bigs were doing us no favors. Aaron Baines had multiple look after look right at the rim and still could not put it in the baskets. The Raptors had nothing, absolutely nothing over this stretch. Nothing, no redeeming quality over this stretch to say, okay, they did this, nothing. There was nothing in that 27-6 run that made me think the Raptors had any sort of opportunity in this game. Tatum was tearing us to shreds. Brad Stevens was drawing up these plays that were just carving our defense apart. Nick Nurse got thoroughly outcoached throughout this game. The Raps had to really work for good looks, but when they actually got the good looks, they were missing them. Missing wide open looks at the rim, missing wide open corner threes. They shot 20% from the floor over the course of the second quarter. Siakam was not helping. 3 for 10 from the field at the half. Aaron Baines was 0 for 5 from the field without shooting any threes at the half. Like, that's not good enough. OG can't hit the easiest looks that you would expect him to hit at least 7 out of 10 times. And nobody was helping Fred VanVleet. We're down by 15.5. It was a 38-14 quarter in favor of the Celtics. That is embarrassing. Embarrassing. So we get to the second half. We want momentum so bad to start clawing away back at the game because an entire half of basketball is a lot of time. And, credit to the guys, we come out pretty strong. But every time we do anything to marginally build momentum, the Celtics hit a big shot on the other end and just put that momentum to bed. Like, they were just killers, hitting daggers all night. We were just simply getting out-coached. We had no answer to stop that Celtics offense. Tatum was balling out, and nobody was willing to do anything about that. Like, the Celtics drew up plays from Brad Stevens to just ruin our defense. Like, we could not stop anything. I don't know where this team has gone from, priding themselves on keeping teams under 100 throughout the entire game of basketball. Yet in this game, the Celtics had 100 points at the end of the third quarter. We were letting easy rebounds go. Like, there was no heart and no desire from so many of the guys on the floor, and there is no excuse for that. Even when you're getting outplayed, if your basketballing ability is outmatched, that's one thing. But you should never, ever be getting outworked on the basketball floor. And that's what was happening here. I'm glad Nick Nurse was holding guys accountable before the game. Do it more. Do it more. Call more people out, because if they're not going to show up and help you out in the game, call them out and let them know that that is unacceptable, because a lot of the performances in this game were unacceptable. Moving on to the fourth quarter, we're not really talking about the game at this point, just kind of a game as a whole. We were getting out-rebounded to hell. The rebounds ended up being 56-37 in favor of the Boston Celtics. I get that you're a small team, you're going to get out-rebounded, but that's straight-up hustle stats. If it's that big of a margin, 19 rebound difference, that's some hustle stats. That's a lack of desire. Our defense in this game was just also plain embarrassing. There was no IQ in anything we did. There was no IQ in the system we ran on defense. There was no IQ, so no basketball IQ in the way we played offense. Everything was messy, but the Celtics, who are a good defense, didn't allow us to turn those messy possessions into, sometimes seeing a good look on the outside at this point. We were just creating nothing in this game. Nothing went right at all on offense or on defense other than for people named Fred VanVleet. Like, OG just signed his contract, and he needs to step up. We're paying him 4 years, $72 million. He needs to step up if he wants to be a contributor on this team. Like, we know what he brings on defense. He's got to be a contributor on offense. He's got to be a better contributor on offense. Siakam, he didn't have necessarily a bad game here. This was a lot better than we've seen, but we didn't see those good things happen enough. It was in these little spells. It was really streaky throughout the game. He'd go on a big dry spell, then he'd do a couple things in a row right, but we need to see that consistency throughout the game for a max contract player. Norman Powell was basically useless again in this game, and that's not the first time that has happened this season. We've only really seen one good performance from Norman Powell, who is entering almost a contract year here with a $10 million player option available that he's probably going to deny. Norman Powell's basically in a contract year, and he wants money anywhere. He's got to step up his game and be an actual contributor off the bench. Late game garbage time, we go on an 11-0 run to kind of give Raptors fans a chance, as we were, lying down watching in misery, kind of perk up again and watch the game, only to realize that, okay, no, there's still no chance of coming back in this game. But at least they made it less embarrassing on paper, and we only lose by 12 points. Even though it looked better on paper, people who actually watch this game know how much of a complete and utter demolition job it was by the Boston Celtics. And what I was watching throughout that fourth quarter, I watched a team who looked unwilling to turn this whole ordeal around. This 1-5 start, I looked at a team who was ready to lay over and die and watch this season fall away. There was no hope in this game. There was no indication in this game that this team was going to be able to turn this 1-5 record around, because we've had our gimmies. We've had our easy teams so far this season. We've had our non-playoff teams that we've played, and we still lost those games. And this is what happens when you play an actual good team. An actual good team missing 3 of their key pieces in their core rotation. But just because there was a lack of hope in this game, it doesn't mean that can't get turned around. But it needs to happen very soon, or else this season, I keep saying, as that this keeps going, the snowball keeps going, and there's nothing to stop it, this is going to slip away and turn into an ugly season that we cannot stop. Like, this isn't easily a playoff team we're looking at with the Toronto Raptors, just not showing up to games. You know, in the bubble, it's just Siakam not showing up to these games. But now, it's almost everybody. Like Lowry, Fred VanVleet, those guys are still doing their thing. Siakam was better, but not been good enough as a whole. Like, somebody's got to help out Lowry and VanVleet if we want to have any sort of success. So let's get into the 3 takeaways for the game now that the synopsis is finished. I think that the first takeaway is that Nick Nurse is really losing his patience. I mean, we saw in the press conference before the game, he called out Terrence Davis, he called out Matt Thomas. I like that. I like that he's calling people out in the media. You know, there's probably a lot of stuff he does internally that we don't hear about, and you may think that, you know, calling out a guy in a press conference isn't going to do any better, but he's looking for drastic solutions to the way the Raptors are playing, because obviously he's working tirelessly and he's stressing to try to fix this. But if stuff internally is not working, then he's going to bring the problems to the external media so that people can see their name in the media, getting backlash in the media, so that they can use that to turn themselves around, to use that fire to turn themselves around. I think that Nick Nurse is running out of ideas to find a spark, and you know, it may have to turn into a trade somewhere that just reignites the flame for the Raptors. It's okay to support your players, want them to succeed, but also hold them accountable. Like Pascal Siakam, I'm holding him accountable. You know, I'm trashing him for the way he's playing, but I also want him to succeed. You know, you can hold players accountable because you want them to be a better version of themselves and contribute even more. That's how you get winning done. That's how good teams get even better. Second takeaway is that the offense being run by the Toronto Raptors is very unintelligent. We are not running good sets, especially in the half court, and it's showing no indication of getting better. Like, there's some little spells where we're getting to the rim, like the first quarter. In most games, it's the entire first half, but it's such unintelligent offense. It's messy. We're lucky if we can create a good set, a good shot off of a breakdown in the play that we drew up. It's just not sustainable basketball because we can't rely on our offense to create continuous good looks for themselves. And the third takeaway is that we need guys willing to fight. If you're ready to lay over and just die, if you're on the court, get off and let somebody who's willing to hustle and work on the court. Like Malachi Flynn and Yuta Watanabe late on, those guys, in that little spell they played, sure, it was garbage time, and Malachi Flynn got some other minutes throughout the game, but in that little spell in garbage time, those guys were working to try to improve and get themselves involved in the next game because they're ready to fight for this team. They're ready to fight to turn this around, and you notice that there. I like that. I get that it's garbage time, but you just like to see that from a guy coming off the bench, just not ready to lay over and die. At least they provided some sort of hope that the Raptors could have potentially made this game even closer. But guys need to be willing to fight to turn this around. If you're not going to be a fighter, then there's no point of you being on this team. The Raptors have prided themselves on being a team that hustles, outworks teams, and just even though they weren't the most talented team on paper, they outworked you because of the team chemistry. That's how they got results. But unfortunately, they are not coming right now. Another ugly thing I saw, just to kind of round off, not one of the 3 key takeaways, but the Raptors who played in Tampa, their home arena basically, were getting booed by home fans, and that is awful to see. It looks like the Raptors are going to have to play 72 away games because they're not getting any support from Tampa. Like, Tampa Bay, the city, the people of Tampa Bay have been crying out for an NBA team for a long time, and if this is how you're going to treat a team when you get the chance to host an NBA team, don't count on yourself getting one. Don't count on yourself getting an expansion team or a team moving towards you because we're seeing very clearly your inability to support the team through thick and thin. So yeah, an embarrassing loss here to the Boston Celtics. We get the Phoenix Suns next, who are red hot right now after trading for Chris Paul. That's not going to be an easy game, and where can I expect to see a win from? How am I going to expect a win to come out of anything right now? Any game I see, I look at a game that, yeah, sure, the Raptors can win, but how are they going to do that? And that is a very sad and sorry state to be in, but where are they going to find a victory here? Like, where is this going to turn around? I have no answers for that. I spent most of the video, if not all of it, pretty much bashing the Toronto Raptors, but I'm still supporting this team. Don't get it twisted. I really want this team. I'm really hoping for this team to turn everything around. I'm supporting the Raptors through this tough stage. That's what being a fan of a team is like. You had the good, you had the NBA championships, and you had the bad, the 1-5 starts that could spin out of control. But we're here to turn this around. We're going to stick by it. Let's see the Raptors through this mess and hope they can overcome. But let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. That wraps it up for myself. Thank you so much for watching. If you're still here, please like the video if you like, and subscribe to Amateur Sports for more content just like this. Hopefully we get some wins to talk about on the channel very, very soon. But we post at least 4 times a week. We used to do scheduled specific dates to post, but because of the Raptors, schedule that is inconsistent with days, we're just doing videos as we see fit over the course of the week. But thank you again for watching. At the end of the day, I believe what I say. If you disagree, that is okay. We'll see you again next time for another video.